And our top focus at this hour, Pakistan's government has presented the draft of the 27th Constitutional Amendment Bill in the Senate. The amendment will give unprecedented powers and privileges to Army Chief General Asim Munir. The bill is currently under discussion in a joint parliamentary panel. Now, the proposed amendment, it would overhaul Article 243 of the Constitution, and what that means is that it will or it can recast Pakistan's military command hierarchy completely. The bill, if it is passed, will abolish the current office of the Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff Committee. It will instead create a new position, Chief of Defence Forces. The logic being it will give a change in modernizing defence coordination in Pakistan. But in practical terms, what it really means is that it is going to elevate the Army Chief of Pakistan to a constitutionally enshrined position of supremacy, giving him both operational command and overarching control of all military services. Another key change is related to the appointment of Commander of the National Strategic Command, which is in charge of Pakistan's nuclear arsenal. The commander will oversee the country's nuclear forces. While the appointment will be formally made by the Prime Minister, it is the Army Chief who will recommend the name. So essentially what it means is that Asim Munir will have control over the nuclear forces, reducing civilian oversight. It can mean, and we'll discuss this further with our guest joining us on this story. If the amendment goes through, then it would also codify the constitutional office of the Field Marshal. Munir was awarded the title of Field Marshal after clashes with India in May earlier this year. Officers elevated to 5-star ranks would retain rank, privileges and remain in uniform for life. They can be removed only through impeachment and protected by immunities similar to those enjoyed by the president. Critics point out that it will make Pakistan the only country with a Field Marshal rank enshrined in the Constitution, with defined state-level privileges, legal immunity and nuclear influence. While Field Marshal is a designation which is awarded to military heroes in several countries, it is mostly a ceremonial role, unless a change has been introduced in the Constitution, which Pakistan is now attempting. However, under Pakistan's proposed rules, Munir can continue to shape national policy. The closest example to this is Egypt, where a military-backed presidential system They have existed and retired generals like LCC have risen to power. The move has triggered strong reactions from opposition parties and civil society in Pakistan. Most opposition parties have boycotted this joint parliamentary committee meeting to discuss the 27th Constitutional Amendment. An alliance of 6 opposition parties has announced nationwide protest movements, urging the people to take a strong stand against the extremely dark and dangerous change in the Constitution. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan's PTI party called the amendment, saying that it has zero credibility and zero transparency. It added that the bill was introduced without any debate or consultation, and that is not acceptable. And joining me on the broadcast now is Major General Rajan Kochar, Defence and Strategic Affairs Analyst. Major General, thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. What kind of powers will this amendment potentially give Asim Munir over Pakistan's nuclear weapons? Let's start right there, the most pivotal question right now.
Thank you, Shravan. A very, very important and a pertinent discussion, because this nuclear aspect directly affects the nuclear balance between India and Pakistan. So what happens now is, right now, the Pakistan has a national command authority, which is chaired by the Prime Minister of the country, who is the in charge of the nuclear authority in Pakistan. Though he has a secretariat within the NCA, secretariat is there, and he has a strategic plans division as of now. But what happens, this change, we are seeing a new authority actually coming in, a national strategic command, something like a strategic forces command we have in the Indian context. So the change what takes place is the total operational control of the nuclear assets is now with the military commander. That means the day-to-day functioning, the nuclear protocols, the codes, how to launch a nuclear weapon, everything is under the military commander, who is going to be under the chief of the defense forces, because that will be a part of the military hierarchy. He won't be functioning in an independent or a separate manner. So the dangers to this is that present context, if we take General Munir as the field marshal and we take him being appointed as the CDF, as has been mentioned in the document, that the chief of the army staff is going to be the CDF. So he is firstly going to control all the three services. Secondly, the nuclear authority now has an operational military commander, which was not existing earlier, the chief of defense staff. He was part of that committee of NCA, but he didn't wield that authority which the military commander will wield now. So in totality, it is telling us now, because so often we are hearing Pakistan raising the nuclear bogey time and again.
Correct.
And General Munir in particular has been mentioning in his speeches to the national academies or the other places, Florida also he went.
Yes.
So we are seeing a change being actually affected from a political control to a military control. And
allow me to come in there, sir. Yeah, Major General, allow me to just come in there. I take all that you've just mentioned, absorbing that, putting that in a more practical scenario where things stand as of now. May 7th and May 10th weren't too long back. Operation Sindoor was started not long ago. It has been paused. As of now, given any kind of misadventure from Pakistan or any kind of combat situation which arises again, how will this amendment alter the course of escalation which can go from Pakistan's side if Asim Munir now has complete control over the nuclear arsenal?
You see, though, of course, on paper, it is the Prime Minister of Pakistan as of now also.
Understood.
But we know that ultimately it is the army chief or General Munir who's going to call the shots.
Yes.
But what he has done now is he has constitutionalized the entire process. I would actually call it the constitutional coup, because earlier it was not there in as a part of the constitution. But what he has done is that he has constitutionalized these powers into the powers of the army chief in the form of a CDF.
Understood.
So what happens now is, supposing there is a difference of opinion between the Prime Minister in the NCA,
yes,
and the Chief of the Army Staff, the Chief of Army Staff can turn rogue, because he has been emboldened by the Constitution now to exercise the operational control of the nukes. So there is a possibility he is strengthening himself now from the political establishment, because in case there is a difference of opinion between the political establishment and the military establishment,
understood,
chances are very, very remote in Pakistan. But even if we take a 5% probability of that, the Chief of Army Staff can turn rogue, and tomorrow he cannot be tried under any judicial process, because this amendment also lays down certain amendments into the judicial scrutiny of the actions of the Chief of the Army Staff.
And Major General, you called it a constitutional coup. Let me just thread it further from there. By altering Article 243, is this spelling a total shift of power to Pakistan's army with no return to civilian supremacy ever?
A very interesting actually question. If I take this into a detailed thought or a detailed sort of analysis, actually it is giving me a feeling now that Field Marshal Munir wants to centralize this entire control of the nuclear assets as well as the military assets into one office, and that office is of the Chief of the Army Staff. So I take it as a very, very far-reaching amendment. And one thing more, it's also very interesting to see that the president has no powers.
Understood.
On the advice of the prime minister, the president has to concur, and the prime minister will be advised by the chief of the army staff. So you see this channel of decision making. The chief of army staff advises the prime minister advises the president, and the president you issue the presidential order. So it is, if you take it from me, it is the chief of army staff who is dictating the foreign policy of Pakistan.
Major General Kocher, you've made some very pertinent points in breaking down exactly what this news is coming out and what it will practically mean for Pakistan and also for any kind of a combat situation which may or may not arise going forward. Thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. There will be more to discuss as we track this closely.
Right, thank you.